Would your schedule or your soul enjoy a little room to breathe? Tune in today as my guest and my friend, Christi Campbell, shares with us how to do that. Welcome to Rhythms That Restore. I'm your friend Cherisse that's ready to journey beside you. Let's learn rhythms that can restore our minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits, and allow us to walk confidently in who God has called us to be. Are you ready? Pull up a chair. Let's get started. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I am so thrilled that you guys all pulled up a chair with us. We are going to have the most incredible conversation. And if you heard on the very first question, how many of us could use some room to breathe in our schedule? 100% of the hands just went up. And so I know you guys are going to love my friend Christi Campbell, who is joining us from Kansas. Thank you, Christi, for being on, and welcome.
I'm thrilled. I'm honored. I'm excited. I literally pulled up a chair, like I pulled it so close to the screen to be with you guys. I'm just antsy and excited to be with you, Cherisse. I'm so honored to sit in your presence. And I'm just so excited just to have a conversation and just talk about creating breathing spaces. Yeah.
This has been really cool. So Christi and I have been walking through this, and she's really been coaching me and mentoring me in creating some breathing room. Like, I kind of feel like I need to say no pun intended, because that's really what she's helping me with in more ways than one. And so I asked Christi, I said, Christi, this has been so beneficial to me. Would you hop on the podcast with us, and would you share your expertise and your wisdom in this area? And she's like, absolutely. So we're going to dive into that. But I know there's so much more to Christi. Christi and I have known each other for probably over a decade, but really just been able to get to know each other over since COVID. Because we do so much online together. And so it's been a really sweet friendship. I've always admired her from afar and have been so grateful to get to know even more of her heart and her soul and her character.
Well, it's Mutual Admiration Society, that's for sure. That's for sure. So let's just, I don't know.
We'll dive in. Let me tell everybody a little bit, just some fun little things about Christi, so you guys can know. So Christi has also been a small business owner for the last 24 years. She has been building a phenomenal business. She is a yoga enthusiast, a holistic life coach, and a breathwork facilitator, which is why we asked her to teach us that today, you guys. Christi loves to laugh, to tell good and bad dad jokes.
I don't know if they're bad good or good bad. I don't really know, but
I love all dad jokes.
Who doesn't?
And I am the worst at telling jokes. I can never tell a joke because I laugh while I'm telling it.
You're doing it right then.
It's always so good. I love Christi's mission is to radiate joy, exude love, ignite peace, and expand our genius in the world. You guys, could we have a better teacher today? Christi has been married to her husband, Josh, for 12 years. And to me, when I think of Christi, I was just thinking of all the things that come to mind when I think of you, Christi. I think of a leader, of a mentor, of a speaker of life. Like, Christi speaks life into me, but into so many other women. She is a belief breather and a champion of dreams.
Well, Cherisse, can we just pull up a chair every day? I'll just sit with that. That's just so lovely.
You are so much of that to me, and I know to hundreds of women. And so that's why I'm thrilled to get to share you with everyone today. So welcome officially.
It's my honor. It's my honor. And it's a Mutual Admiration Society for sure. And I love that you're this really beautiful place between poise and just polish, and also really stinking sassy. And it's just this most beautiful juxtaposition. And so what unfolds today is just going to be just delighting.
I love it. We prayed before we got started, you guys, that that surely there's got to be someone else on the other side listening that needs to hear this message as much as I needed to hear it. And that's why I really did want Christi to be on and share this. So let's go back. I was looking this up, Christi, because I'm like, okay, so Christi and I do so much online and we see each other, like once a year in Dallas is all we ever get to see each other. But so Christi, you live in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Are you from Kansas?
No.
No.
I was born in Colorado. I lived there less than 6 months. My dad got a teaching job in Branson, Missouri, and so we moved there. I was raised there, built my business there, did everything there. And then I met my husband there, and then he moved jobs roughly about 8 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Kansas City. So we've been in Kansas City for about the past 8 years. I could be lying to you. It might be closer to 11. I might have lost a year or in there or something like that. But that's sort of the geography of where I've been living and how I've been moving.
But Kansas City is not far from Branson.
No, from my door to my parents' door, 3 hours on the nose.
Okay. Now, how did you and Josh meet?
Oh, that's a whole different story for a whole different podcast. But the short of it is, he met my dad first because my dad was given a large grant to teach people how to teach math. I mean, as a math teacher, and Josh was assigned his account. And so my dad is the typical quintessential math professor, like really hilarious, really brilliant, really smart, really quirky. And so he left some things in the room and he sent me down to pick them up. We don't think it was a setup, but it could have been a setup. I don't really know. And so I met Josh underneath the portico of the hotel, and we've been talking ever since.
Sounds like a setup to me. I love that.
Set up by somebody, maybe my heavenly Papa. I don't know. But either way, Papa was involved somehow.
That is so cool. I did not know that your dad was a mathematician. That is, yes, that's pretty cool. That might be the only math professor I know. That's neat.
Yep, he's darn good.
So you grew up in Branson, Missouri.
I did.
Okay. And I don't even know this answer. Do you have sisters and brothers?
I do. I have a younger brother.
Okay.
Who is the perfect blend between brilliance and heart. He is a sort of a unique character in the world. He has a similar heart, but expresses life totally differently. He is very much wanting to be sustainable. So he lives in basically a community of people with no electricity, no petroleum, no running water, build it all yourself. Their joke is that they make the Amish look modern. And so that's kind of what he does. I love to support the natural rhythm of life. And yet I also want a flat iron and lipstick and glasses and all the things that make me somewhat attractive. Yes, water included. So all of those things. So, but we have a similar mission, but we express it completely different.
That is so cool. That's so cool. Yep. Yeah. I always think that sounds like fun, but I'm the same way too. I'm like, yeah, I need a hot shower for sure.
Yeah. Hot showers probably change some lives for sure. For sure.
So I was thinking of this question too. When I think of you, I truly always think of a champion of others, whether it's women. I'm sure you do this in your circle of friends and for your family. But I thought there's got to have been a moment where that all started. Have you always been wired like that, Christi? Like in high school, was that who you were? Just always championing others?
I don't think I would ever say that about myself, but as you offer me that question of perspective, I think that's true. I think I remember when I was 3 years old, I do remember this. I don't know if my answer was quirky or I used to make my threes really weird. And I used to hold my threes like this because I couldn't hold my pinky. So people want to ask me when I was 3 what I wanted to be. And I wanted to be a teacher, a cheerleader, and a lover. So I do think I'm a lover of people. I do think I cheerlead well. And I do like to teach principles. that bring us closer to a rhythm with the divine. And so in some ways, I got what I wanted to be when I was 3 years old. So
Isn't that cool?
yeah.
Yeah. It is so fun to be able to look back at, when we look at our childhood self, like how God wired us so beautifully and so purely at 3 years old that you would already know that
Yeah.
God was going to use you that way.
And that we all have that innate intelligence somewhere, and we get distracted from it, lost from it. Usually I say our dreams get lost to diapers, dishes, and debt, and sometimes distraction. And so it's like we forget that we knew at 3 years old, most of us, what we wanted to be to some degree. And whether it manifests in terms of, like, if you wanted to be the president of the United States, you may not be the president of the United States, but you're probably in a position of leadership somewhere, somehow. And so it just all kind of unfolds in this really interesting way. And so I think that what the beauty of that question is, that's a starting point for a lot of us, is to come back to what was the original vision or mission or purpose that was innate within us.
Absolutely. And that's kind of this summer. So we've been walking through this whole summer soul care series, and it's been beautiful to see how every friend that has popped on and shared their story has brought up these questions. And a few episodes ago, my friend Ren said that same thing, Christi. She said, what is your why? Starting with why, what is it that that God has put on your heart for you to do, and only that you to do? And so I think that, thank you for bringing that back to our attention, for sure.
Background.
Yeah. So speaking of knowing our why, and then even making space to slow down and to breathe, I know that this is a big part of your story, so we're going to get into it in a second, but I would love to know, like, where was the moment, Christi, in your story where maybe you just kind of started realizing there's got to be a better way? And where this came about, like, was it something in high school, college? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't think that my life is like there was a moment. I think it's like evolutions. And I want to look back, I'm like, oh, there was a pocket of time. Here was a pocket of time. Here was a pocket of time. And so I think it starts with when I was young. I don't want to go too far back because I want to be mindful, but I think that there's these, now that I see it, it's definitely a presentation moment to become aware. So when I was super young, I was a competitive gymnast, and I learned team sport there. Like, I love a sport where you can learn something to master, and also you're a part of a contribution to a team. And so I had that, and I was getting these really, really, really horrible stomach aches. Like, they were horrible. And back then, we thought it was a dairy allergy. And that still might be true. But knowing what I know now, I think it was a mild form of anxiety, because I would get them before I wanted to compete. And I was monitoring my food. Like, this is at a really young age. And so I was prepping my body and my life to move. I wanted to be an Olympic champion also. So I was going to go train in Houston, Texas. And so there was all that season of my life. And so my mom was wise enough to teach me how to meditate. And it was a couple of different forms then. As a champion, we were taught to visualize our floor routines, our beam routines. And then when she taught me how to meditate, I just changed the thing that I was focusing on to Jesus instead of my floor routine. And so that's how that sort of made its entry point. Well, then I went off to college, and I graduated from college, and I came back, and my life was just chaos. And because I had this voice in my head that was driving me, and if any of us are familiar with the Enneagram, I'm a flaming 3. It's like, can I be the best at everything I touch my hand to? There's no question. I'm like, I've got to be the best. And so there was a subtle recognition of, it's okay to be driven, but what's the voice that's driving you? And I really began to question, like, I don't know that I trust this voice that's driving me. And so I began to then decide, like, well, what is the voice that is most powerful? And is that the voice that I should be paying attention to? So that's when I unearthed meditation again. And then fast forward a little bit more. During COVID, I had started taking yoga because my body was just tired. Like my physical body was just tired. I'm kind of giving you some spotlight moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just taking yoga for my body, to be honest. But then I was like, I think I want to learn to teach yoga because I'm a 3, and I got to force my way into things. And then after I learned to teach it, then I began to ask this question, like, success for me in that moment was feeling like a linear paradigm. Like if I get more, you're going to have less. Or if I get more, then it's like a fear-based paradigm where if I'm striving for more, then there's an innate thought that there's less somewhere. I'm less than, we're less than, somebody misses out. I won't have more money. I won't have more time. I won't have more excellence. I won't have more talent. And so there began to be this voice of lack that comes through. And so at that stage, when I was learning yoga, I'm like, well, it's kind of that same voice again, but I felt it in the realm of success. And I felt it in the realm of, am I taking spirit out of success? So I began to just see, how can spirit mean business? How can you have a really peaceful life and progress? How can you learn to press and pause? How can you learn to pivot and do all this? And so knowing which season that you're in, because sometimes we're in a season of pause, because I do believe that you need to get away from the world now to lead the world. And sometimes we're in a season of pressing forward where we need focus and concentration. And sometimes we're in a season where it's like, we need an about face. And if we're not quiet enough to understand the voice that's driving us enough, then we have a life that's just busy and not meaningful, and a life that's busy and not fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make it my mission to begin to pause long enough to see what is fulfilling here, what is meaningful here, and then to begin to offer that for other people that I know that are wanting to rebrand a life, structure a schedule differently, allow yourself to say, I'm no longer at capacity. I can exhale, or just have a system reset. So then I learned a whole bunch of things about breath and breath technique and how that works with the nervous system. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of a story, but there's always that thread that runs through it that says, nothing outside of you has dominion over anything inside of you. And if you can get clear about what's inside of you, you're going to be well led, well fed, well guided, well rested.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That made me think of 2 things. Number 1, I had a friend share this week with me when I kind of needed a little reframing moment. And she reminded me, she said, Cherisse, greater is he that is in you than he who is in the world. And she reminded me that like we already have, the Holy Spirit inside of us if we're a born again believer. And she said, you know that, you can claim that. And so what you just said reminded me of that, like greater is he who is in you, and taking that time to slow down and listen. And then there was a quote I read this week from Dallas Willard, and he said that the biggest thing the enemy loves to do is get us busy. Because if he can get us busy, then our soul starts shriveling. Because there's never time to slow down and listen, which is just what you said. Like that is actually why slowing down and giving yourself that time to pause allows your soul to listen and to flourish and to be fed.
Absolutely. Well, we know that the kingdom of heaven is where? Within.
Mhm.
The kingdom of heaven is here. And so if we can build the interior castle, then we have a life that is meaningful. We have a light that we can carry forward.
Mhm.
So absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It was when you were sharing that about being a gymnast and being an athlete. It's interesting because we did that too in high school, Christy.
Yep,
I was not a gymnast or cheerleader, um, but my coach would have us, she would tell us, you do not have to actually be practicing your routine. You can do it in your head. And we all looked at her like she, was
yep,
crazy. But she would said, I need you to see it before you see it.
yep.
And that was in high school that I learned that. But even now as an adult and teaching and mentoring women, we know that really conquering our mind is one of the biggest things that we can do. And so being able to practice and grow that muscle memory of, visualizing and creating our mindset is a really powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Mhm.
And it's an entryway for a lot of us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because the mind craves stimulation, but it needs stillness.
Mm.
And the body craves stillness, but we need to move it. So breath is the great uniter because there's a close correlation between the pace of your breath and the pace of your thoughts. And so the mind is a terrible master, but it's an exceptional servant. And so if you can slow down the thoughts long enough to begin to create a gap in between your thoughts, now you can direct them and they're not directing you. And then you can begin to build a life that feels more rich to you and you're not feeling pulled by every little thought. You don't have to believe everything you think. so, um, but there's that. And so, like, as I've been progressing my own studies, there's two entry points usually for people to want to begin to pause. One is the science of it. And because there's scientific evidence that talks about when you slow your breath, not only do you slow your mind, you slow your heart rate. So it's good for cortisol levels. It's good for your heart rate. It's good for your nervous system. And so it's good for overall health. And yoga, we say you want your body to be at rest and digest because that's when the body begins to heal itself. And it can't get to rest and digest if your mind is doing this, if your stomach is doing this, if you can't digest your food. All right. So scientifically, breath and meditation has entered in. Okay. So we want to calm and heal our bodies, and it can have a huge effect. There's another entry point for people, and I call that soul work. Okay. It's my lingo, not anybody else's lingo. Okay. But there's also some connection. So most great traditions in the world or practices want to amplify life force. So in yoga, it's called prana. Prana is breath. Pranayama is breath practices. Okay. And so I believe that breath is the Holy Spirit in tangible form.
Mhm.
And the more you're connected with your breath, the more you can have a more soulful experience, whether
Mhm.
you're practicing yoga or not.
Yeah.
But then for the soulful level, we have this awareness then that, okay, well, if I'm going to begin to be intimate with breath or the Holy Spirit, then I now know that what I meditate on, I become. So meditation then you can move your anchor to a passage that
Yeah.
feels sacred to you, a prayer, a passage from the Bible. And there's actually a style of meditation called passage meditation where you take your passage and you run through it.
Mm.
Our Father who art in heaven. And now, if you're like me, what happened with me is our Father who art in heaven. Oh my gosh, the dishes are in the dishwasher. I forgot about this. The kids are over there. My hair's a little out of whack. Do I need to go to the doctor? Okay. We come back to the beginning of the passage. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And so we're training the mind on a specific one point of attention. And that does so many things. It calms the soul because you're meditating on something that's sacred to you. You're also calming the nervous system. You're also changing how you direct your thought. And then once the mind starts to slow, now you get to hear the whisper. And we are guided.
Mm-hmm.
We just forget that we're guided.
Yeah.
And so the kingdom of heaven is within. So how many times a day can we spend time within? And so it can be with a breath entry point for 2 minutes. Breath can work in as quickly as 2 minutes. Okay. Meditation is a little bit longer, but that's how you begin to breathe life into your body, into your relationships, into your schedule. And so whatever reason you're doing it, you're going to feel benefit and more spaciousness in whatever area you want it to apply to.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you see that with you in your practice?
100%. Yes. Yes. One thing it made me think of when you said that, I love using the Lord's Prayer. I have not been doing that, but I will. That I can be very quick when I get off on a tangent. Like a lot of times I think of my brain a lot of times is like a ping pong ball. And I'm trying so hard to be intentional and to breathe through it. And then the ping pong balls start flying all over. And so what I can be good at, but I'm working on, is not getting frustrated with myself. Like, man, how did you get there? But to envision Jesus as that shepherd and as that heavenly Father, and just taking that shepherd staff and just softly bringing me back. Like, it's okay. Come on, bring it back. And so I love those words. I love that verbiage. And even just like what you've been teaching me, what would it look like, Cherisse, if you started the first 10 minutes of your day and the last 10 minutes of your day breathing? And I will tell you, Christi, I mean, I'm still such a work in progress on it, but I'm doing well at night. The morning, I don't always do so well, but my sleep has really changed, and it helps me to get to deep sleep better. And again, I won't speak for everyone else, but for me, trying to get my cortisol levels to come down has been a big feat, in trying to regulate my nervous system. And so that's why this has been a really interesting practice to be learning, because, and we all know what life was like before technology.
Yeah.
Like, we do. A lot of younger generations don't know that. So like, I think we can actually visualize what it was like to not be stimulated all the time. And that's why I think learning these practices is really a non-negotiable for us, because we live in a culture that is way overstimulated.
100%, 100%. And our minds are too.
Yeah.
And so what's so funny that you say that is, so a lot of us have, I don't want to speak for anybody at all, but I speak for some of my people that I work with, is there's a preconceived notion of like, well, I don't want to learn a breath technique, or I don't want to learn meditation. And I totally get that. So what's interesting about what you just said, Cherisse, is I can say, I can teach you how to meditate, or I can teach you how to sleep better. And everybody wants to learn how to sleep better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's another great entry point, because breath can calm you and you help sleep better. So you're moving now into rest and digest.
Yes.
And now the body is beginning to come online. And so that's another thing why we want to learn a practice or have a tool, whether you call it breath or meditation, that begins to let the body begin to heal itself.
So can you show us or teach us just a few of those breathwork tools?
Yeah, I'll teach you just two quickly.
Okay.
I'll give you the essence of something. Okay. And then I think it would be helpful, and let me know if you feel like this too, but I think it would be helpful if I could offer a space for what a passage meditation might look like, and offer a prayer. Yeah. So, because you're still slowing down your breath there too. Okay. So there's a bajillion techniques that I would love to offer. Okay. But in general, there's two that I would want people to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, there's
And,
more. I'm
and
gonna lie. I'm gonna leave you two, and they're gonna be like, no, but I got this one too. I got this one too.
And if anybody has questions, I'll put your email in the show notes. They can find you on Instagram. They can send you DMs because, like you said, there's so many more we could share. But for today, yeah.
And it would be my honor to help you sleep better.
Yes.
Everybody, we all are motivated to create more space somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's in our body, literal body. And that's one of the purposes for yoga is you're creating space for stretch, for you to become more flexible, okay? You're creating space in the mind, okay? And sometimes we just want space to exhale, all right? So whatever your entry point is, I honor it, I applaud it. And I want to go back because you said something really powerful, Cherisse, as you just said. I just noticed that it's easy for me to beat up on myself. You didn't quite say it like that. But our minds are automatically going to do that. If you're doing that, if your minds are doing that, don't beat yourself up. Part of the practice is to say, okay. And then you build a habit of kindness with yourself when you're just like, okay, I love that you pictured the shepherd's staff and his sheep. You have the Lord's hand right around you. Come back home, my darling. We're here. Okay. So number one is box breathing. I think most of us have a similar understanding of box breathing. They train the Marines with this. And this is a technique that's really exceptional to focus you and relax you at the same time. So if there happens to be any teenagers listening before a test, if there happens to be any adults listening before a heavy conversation or a crucial conversation, before something that causes you to be nervous, it's called box breathing. And it focuses you and calms you, like I said. So the essence of it is, and we don't need to do it together because the essence will be pretty self-explanatory. You'll inhale in for a count of 4. You'll pause for a count of 4. Exhale, count of 4. But you are doing it with us. Pause, count of 4. Okay. Inhale, count of 4. Pause, count of 4. Exhale, count of 4. Pause, count of 4. And then breathe normally. You can do that about 2 minutes a day and just notice how you feel afterwards. Okay. Now, tiny little caveat, breathing is good for everybody. Okay. But if you've been holding your breath for a while or breathing shallowly for a while, you may feel lightheaded. Okay. So that is something you may yawn. All right. So that is something to consider. If you have a lower blood pressure anyway, just be mindful of some of those things because when you pause with breath, you are intentionally slowing down the heart rate. Okay. They teach the Marines do this before their heart, like before they're jumping out of a plane or they have to hold their breath or they have to do an exercise. So they want the heart rate nice and low because that's when the cortisol is down. They're not going into fight or flight in the body. Okay. So I say that if you already have low blood pressure, you may want to be mindful of that because that's what the pause is for, scientifically speaking. But I say that to say, yeah.
Share with them too, what you taught me about the importance of a deep breath and why that's so important and what can be trapped there.
Oh, my favorite thing to talk about. All right. So deep breathing is important. So shallow breathing, like Cherisse was saying, is a sister. This is my terminology. It can create a sister to anxiety because you're trapping your air right hip here in your clavicle. So the more you pull your breath down into the belly, then you're beginning to expand your lungs. You're getting more oxygen. Again, you might yawn. You might feel a little lightheaded. Okay. But it's many of us, because we're so busy, we breathe just about to here. If you can't see me, I'm pointing to my heart. So when you pull the breath in through the belly, you are expanding lung capacity. And then if you think breathing horizontally, like your breath comes in and you breathe out through the ribs, now you're getting into the low lobe of the lung. Now, here's what Cherisse was referring to, which is super fascinating to me. I'm fixing to nerd out all over everybody. I'm just getting super nerdy. So in Chinese medicine, the lungs represent grief and joy. All right. So when we stop breathing richly, or we're breathing shallowly, whether it's by habit or default, okay, then we don't get to release anything that we've trapped. So if there's something that we haven't grieved, anger, by the by, is a sister to grief. Anger is suppressed grief frequently. Okay. I'm not getting into psychotherapy here. I'm just saying we trap emotions. The body does keep score. And so if we want a hard reset, we do need to learn to breathe better. Okay. Some of these things we can do with breath. Some of it, the Lord is going to take care of when we sleep, which is why it's important that we rest and digest. All right. I can get off on a nerdy tangent on that too. And so sometimes when you breathe deep, you might even laugh. You might have been trapping joy. All right. But until that comes up and out of you, then you can't, you're still trapping things. So breathing deep can bring you a more healing perspective for your life, whether it's a physical healing or an emotional healing. But that's why breathing deep is so important. And so the second thing I will share, and then we'll just kind of start to put a pretty little bow on today, is that in general, when your exhale is longer than your inhale, you're signaling to your nervous system that you're safe, you're not in fight or flight. So before you go to sleep, you can inhale, for example, for a count of 4, pause for a moment, exhale for a count of 6, okay, or longer, okay? But that signals to the nervous system that you're ready to start slowing down, and then the nervous system can do its work. Also, the Lord can do his work. All right. So those are some offerings for you today. Hope that is helpful.
Those
if
are
you've
beautiful.
tried it, I would love to know how you feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really what Christi has had me working on, y'all, is the first 10 minutes of the day, not hopping on anything, just truly getting out of bed and then just taking a moment to breathe, to help, again, signal to my brain, I'm safe, I am calm. And then right before bed, which has been huge. So I'm excited for everybody to know these different types of breath. And when Christi told me that the Marines do box breath, I was like, well, okay, I can do this.
Okay. Yes. They can do it. I can do it. And I'm so delighted that you're sleeping better. This makes my heart so happy.
Yes, it's just been so helpful. And so that's why, again, I was thrilled. So the box breath, but even if we have to set an alarm in our phone to give ourselves a reminder to take 2 minutes to breathe, I think that that's so powerful. And you teaching us how to take the deep breaths and how to lower our cortisol levels is huge, Christi. Huge. And I know you have one more practice to share with us, but I would love to know, I always like to ask all my friends, if you could go back and now knowing so much that but if you could go back to your 10-year-old self and share with her some of this wisdom as she's growing up, what would you tell her right now, Christi? What would be your advice and wisdom to her?
Oh gosh, one of a couple things pops into my mind. I think thing one is you are loved and you are love. Period. Number 2 is you're under no laws but God's. And so 3, go have fun. Go explore. You can't mess up. If you're loved and loved, just go explore. Have fun.
Beautiful. Beautiful principles for all of us to walk by.
Yeah.
That's why I love it. I'm like, let us all adopt those principles and live like those 10-year-old little girls that we have inside of us.
Yes. Sure. Amen. 10-year-old girls. What would you say to yours? I'm curious. Do you ever get to share yours?
Have
you ever shared yours?
I have not. Thank you for asking me.
Oh my gosh. Let it be known right now. What would you say to yours? I
would tell her to have fun, to laugh more, to be more adventurous, and to not worry about what other people say.
Oh, good one. I bet we're all pretty similar.
Yeah, I'm learning that lesson. I'm learning that lesson.
I love that. So good.
Thank you for asking. So share with us. I know you have one last exercise that you want to share to close us out, Christi. And of course, if anybody has more questions, please reach out to Christi. I'll put all of her information in the show notes for you guys to find her.
Okay. And do you want me, Cherisse, do you want me to kind of say bye-bye, give everybody a little kiss on the forehead with this? Okay. All right. Well, then it'll be my pleasure. If you're driving, please don't do this. Don't close your eyes. If you happen to be pulled up on a chair with us right here, then just take a moment to close down your eyes. What I'm going to walk you through is an example of passage meditation. I'm just going to end with one of my favorite passages. It's called Do Not Look with Fear. It's by St. Francis de Sales. And so we'll just prepare the body first. Ground down, find your sits bones on your chair. Lift up through the spine. Level the chin to the earth. Take a full inhale in through the nose, pull it out through the belly. As you exhale, let the belly soften. This time imagine a white light coming in through the crown of your head, as if the Lord is bestowing you with goodness. Pull that in all the way to the belly. Exhale that light out through the feet. And now pull that light up through the feet. Pull all of the earth's goodness up to the belly. And as if we're recycling anything that needs to be recycled, exhale that out the top of the head. Give it back to the Lord, what's not yours. Take 2 more breaths. And then repeat to yourself silently these words. Do not look with fear at the changes and chances of life, but rather look with full faith that as they arise, God, whose you are, will deliver you out of them. He has kept you hitherto, so do not but hold fast to his dear hand, and he will lead you safely through all things. And when you cannot stand, he will bear you in his arms. Do not anticipate what will happen tomorrow. The same everlasting Father that has cared for you today will care for you tomorrow and every day. Either he will shield you from suffering, or he will give you unfailing strength to bear it. Be at peace then, and set aside all anxious thoughts and imaginings. And so it is, and amen. Thank you, my darlings. May you find space in your schedule and in your soul and in the rhythms of your life that bring you peace beyond all understanding.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of restoration and renewal. Remember, you can stay connected with me between episodes by following me on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you found value in our conversation today, I'd truly appreciate it if you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or share the show with a friend who might benefit from these rhythms. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you can show up every day simply as you are. And that is enough. Take care.